Okay, today on the program, we have Aimee Yang. She's from a company, a startup called BetterBrand. They are making low-carb versions of high-carb foods that we all love. The first one, the bagel. I saw this trending on Twitter. I ordered some of the bagels, and I was like, wow, these bagels aren't bad. Now listen, I'm a bagel snob. They're not Brooklyn bagels yet. And we have a big debate about what percentage is she to a Brooklyn bagel. Well, you'll find out in the episode where I put it on a very specific. I might have hurt her feelings a little bit. I'll be totally honest. I kind of felt bad during the interview. She thought I gave it a low rating. I thought it was being very generous compared to a Brooklyn bagel. But anyway, first up, we're going to talk about a Financial Times story that estimates Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube will lose about $10 billion in revenue in half of 2021 due to Apple's new privacy changes. It's a very big deal. It's a very intricate story. And of course, we're going to talk about meetups because it's Meetup Monday. Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Novo Free Business Banking. If your bank charges outrageous fees, you need a bank account that's built for small business. Get your free business banking account in just 10 minutes at banknovo.com/twist. Lemon.io. Need to speed up your product development without draining your budget? Hire vetted engineers from Europe at lemon.io. Go to lemon.io/twist to get 15% off for the first 4 weeks. And Disruptive Advertising. Sign up for a free digital marketing audit at disruptiveadvertising.com/twist. Plus, if you go into business with Disruptive, you'll receive a $250 gift card and a free Friday to Sunday ski trip in Utah.
Okay, everybody, in our first story today, Apple's privacy features that you've heard about from their iOS 14.5 update are costing, according to a third-party service, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Snapchat, about $10 billion in combined lost revenue in the second half of 2021. This is a story from the Financial Times. If you don't remember, Apple introduced app tracking transparency back in April as part of their iOS 14.5 update. I covered that in episode 1204 if you want to go deep. Basically, iPhone users are opting out of being tracked. This means it's difficult to target advertising from the big advertising networks. The big two, where the majority of advertising occurs on the internet, are obviously Facebook and Google/YouTube. Twitter and Snapchat are minor players in this huge advertising machine that is the internet. But Apple has stopped their ability to target specific phones and track you and retarget you and all that good stuff that advertisers love. And so when users opt out of being tracked, it basically makes the cost go up because you're going to need more impressions and you're going to have a lower click-through rate. So the way advertising works on the internet, you will pay typically for each click that happens. And a click for an app, usually $1 or $2, in some cases $10, $20 for certain groups of users. Now, who in their right mind is going to pay $1 per click or $5 per click? Well, if it's a video game that has some kind of upselling in it or coins or mana, whatever it is, and they have whales in the system who are spending $100 on coins a month, that means if they spend $1 per person to click and they get out of 100 people 50 downloads, the cost per click is $1, the cost per download is $2. And then if 1 out of 50 people spends more than $100, they're in the black. In other words, they're profitable. And so this science is why you see certain types of apps constantly being advertised to you on Facebook and other services, Twitter. And it's typically games that are the ones that are really aggressive about trying to get you to pay to get to the next level. So all of this comes from an ad tech company I've never heard of called Lotame, Lotame. And they note that advertisers are responding by cutting spending. So we knew this would happen. This would be a big tailwind for Apple and their ad network because Apple does sell ads to promote apps. It would be a headwind against these large ad networks. And if you know more about the person, you can present ads to people who are more likely to click. What does this mean? There's a certain amount of ad inventory on, let's say, YouTube, or a certain amount of ad inventory on Facebook and Instagram. if you get 1 out of 10 people to click on an ad today, and then tomorrow you get 1 out of 100, that means the ad network is 10 times less efficient. In other words, you're using up more of the impressions, people seeing the ad, to get the same number of clicks. But if you know that your app works really well with a certain demographic, women who are 35 years old, who have these other apps on their phone, who have visited these websites, you get the idea. Or this type of phone. It might be that people who have older phones really like these Bejeweled games. It might be people with the newer phones might really like the first-person shooters. Who knows? The algorithm is actually trying to make sense of all this. And that's where all the gains in advertising and the money printing ad networks are getting their gains from. That's why Google bought, the big AI company, DeepMind, back in the day. It wasn't that they wanted to win at chess or Go. Those are just, shiny little PR stunts. What they really wanted to do was make the ad network smarter and give you better ads, target them better, so the same amount of inventory would make more money. That's known as efficiency, right? And that's why the money printing machines of Google and Facebook have done so well. Apple has decided we're going to stop letting people target, therefore the efficiency goes down. And according to Low2Me, they estimated that Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Snapchat, quote, lost 12% of revenue in the third and fourth quarters, or $9.85 billion. I'm not sure how they get to that. Financial Times notes that may be conservative. They also note Google is not as impacted, which is interesting. Now, why is Google not impacted? Pretty obvious if you think about it. Google, you type a word in a box, and the word is typically what you're looking for, right? You don't search for something you're not looking for. Type in Volvo, you're not looking for chocolate chip cookies. And if you're typing chocolate chip cookie recipes, you're probably not looking for a Volvo. Facebook and YouTube create a psychographic profile of you based on your behavior. Google has that as well, but they know the keywords you put in. If you type in first-person shooter or Angry Birds or Bejeweled, we kind of know that these games that are like Bejeweled will show you more of those, right? Pretty simple. And that's why Google is going to not be as impacted by this. YouTube will be, but not Google. So here's a chart for those of you taking a look at the YouTube channel. Our YouTube is youtube.com/thisweekin. And if you go there, hit subscribe and then hit the little bell, which is the notification bell, and you'll be part of the notification gang. And you'll see when I go live. I tape the show live every day, and a couple hundred people watch it live. So if you want to watch This Week in Startups live, go to youtube.com/thisweekin. Click not just subscribe, but click the bell next to it. You'll get a notification once a day when I go live, which is kind of cool. So you can just see it here. Facebook was the one that got murdered the most. And this is why Facebook is spending so much money on Meta. They know that the next compute platform Apple is betting on is AR. That's why Facebook is now absolutely trying to beat Apple at AR and VR. That is the big battle we'll see in the next 5 years. Compute went from being your desktop, then it went to laptops, then it went to phones and tablets. Next up, social media became a big platform, the internet before that. What's the next one? Most people believe it's VR and AR. I'm not going to call it the metaverse. It's kind of corny. It's just going to be augmented reality is the big one for me. I think VR is a bit of a head fake. But yeah, 8 billion lost by Facebook. Because Facebook, you don't type in a keyword. Facebook needs to spy on you and get all that data. That's why Facebook is so good at targeting and became so great. And in the beginning, we all thought Facebook wasn't going to work for advertising because algorithms weren't sophisticated. AI wasn't sophisticated 10 plus years ago when Facebook came out. So the ads on Facebook used to be really annoying. And then slowly, as they knew your circle group, they could say, hey, people in your circle are clicking on Volvo ads. Maybe we'll show you a Volvo ad and see what happens. Maybe your group is just everybody's got Volvo. That's why some people think that like devices are listening to us. You ever have this experience? A bunch of your friends were like, we were talking about, Volvos and, my friend saw a Volvo on their Instagram the next day. And so we know that it was listening to our phones. No. What happened was your phones were all in the same geography. Your phones and your accounts were all friends with each other and you comment on each other's content. Then out of your friend group of the top 100 people, 7 of you were talking about the Volvo and you searched for it, or maybe there was a discussion thread about it. The other 93 may have been shown the Volvo ad when the AI was testing if these 7 people in this tight network of friends, and maybe 1 degree or 2 degrees, wow, when we showed Volvo ads, another 40% of people, okay, so maybe you live in the Northeast, maybe Volvos are, the hot new thing. You get the idea. So this makes you think that it's listening to you when in fact it's watching your behavior online, and there is obviously an overlap between the real world and the digital world. If your bank charges outrageous fees, you need a bank account that's built for small business. You need to check out Novo's free business banking platform. Novo is built from the ground up to be powerful, simple, and provide free business banking. There are no minimum balances, no transaction limits, and no hidden fees. That's why Money Magazine called Novo the best business checking account of 2021. Novo makes banking easy and secure. You can manage your account in their customizable website and apps. And Novo's web apps have built-in profit-first accounting and invoicing. You can easily tag each transaction and upload your receipts. Novo seamlessly integrates with most leading business tools and services like Stripe, Shopify, QuickBooks, and more, all for free. And they also offer $5,000 in perks and discounts just for signing up. So get your free business bank account in just 10 minutes at banknovo.com/twist. You'll also get a Novo debit card for free ATM use. And you'll get a free copy of Novo Small Business Starter Guide. That's banknovo.com/twist. One word, banknovo.com/twist. Snapchat lost the most relative revenue due to their focus on smartphones. Again, Facebook has a lot of desktop. Google has a lot of desktop. Kind of sucks for Snapchat. And so a lot of these companies are just going to have their valuations compressed a little bit until they figure this out. Some people might have so much traffic like Facebook that they can just solve for this by showing more ads to people. And that, of course, ruins the consumer experience a little bit. But according to the Financial Times article, Twitter ads, quote, rely more on context and branding than on tracking consumers' mobile habits. So Twitter's ad sales rose 41% last quarter. So they don't seem to be as impacted by this. That directionally makes sense. When they say they rely more on context and branding than on tracking consumers' mobile habits, you ever see that when you load Twitter, whatever the big movie is that weekend, whatever the big TV show on streaming is, so Dune or the latest Marvel movie will be there. That's because Twitter is such a part of the zeitgeist that all of those people who are trying to be part of the discussion, TV shows, movies, gadgets, they will buy out the entire run of the site. They want everybody in America talking about the latest Netflix show or talking about Dune or talking about whatever streaming service it is. So that makes a lot of sense to me. When Tim Cook was asked about this by analysts last Thursday, he said, "We believe strongly that privacy is a basic human right. And so that's our motivation there. There's no other motivation." So people are saying Apple is doing this to grow their own ad business, and that's hypocrisy. That's just an added benefit. I actually believe Tim Cook when he says that. My understanding is, and I haven't seen this, I don't know if any of you have. If you're in the chat room right now, tell me if you have seen ads when you're in the App Store, but I haven't seen ads in the App Store. I don't know why. But has anybody seen them? I haven't seen them in Apple's App Store. So is Apple's focus on privacy bad faith? No, it's a feature. If you look at VPNs, DuckDuckGo, all the different privacy related browsers out there, VPNs and other software, people using email relays. Consumers actually care now. Consumers are starting to care. And it went from being a very niche thing to care to being something that now a broader group of people want their privacy back. And Apple is brilliant for doing this. If Facebook really wants to get ahead of this, I've been saying this for a decade. When you load Facebook or Instagram, it should say, would you like to opt out of tracking and have no ads in your feed for $9.95 a month across the suite of Apple products? We will not track any of your data. We'll delete all of your profile data that we have in secret, and you will see no ads. I wonder how many people would pay for that. 5% of users? I know I would. I want to get ads out of my life, where I can if they're disruptive ads. And so, I pay for NBA League Pass. There was an extra option for $20 to take out ads and watch the feed in the arena. I pay for that. I like to watch them shoot cannons with t-shirts into the arena at MSG. It makes me feel like I'm there. Kind of a cool feature. So really great job on Apple's part to execute on this. And I really don't care if Facebook can't target as well. People on their devices have the right to do what they want. If you want to use the Brave browser or DuckDuckGo's browser or ad blocker or cookie tracker blocker, that's your right. What you do on your device is your right. And if those services don't like it, they should just offer a paid version and charge for the top features and give people an option. And that's really what this is about. If you want to avoid being regulated, give people options and be honest with them and communicate it simply. That's what Apple does fantastically. That's what Facebook does horribly. Okay, let's get to my interview with Aimee Yang of BetterBrand's, making that protein-based bagel she is going to solve for less carbs. All right, for years, I've been saying, make a better bagel, make me better pizza. Why can't we have pizza or burgers or bagels that help you lose weight? This would be an amazing thing for an entrepreneur to take on because think about how much it sucks to be fat. Well, you don't have to worry about that because I've thought about it. Man, I was tipping the scales at over 200. Now I'm down to a svelte 182. It's better to be thinner than to be fat. Sorry, trigger warning. It's healthier to not be obese. I know we're not allowed to talk about this anymore, but how did I do it? Well, I just ate less food and a lot less carbs. And carbs taste delicious, and our bodies love carbs. Well, I was on the interwebs, and I saw one of my friends had tweeted about a better bagel. And I was like, oh, there it is. Some entrepreneur is making a bagel that is, less bad for you. I'm from Brooklyn. Bagels are part of the 4 food groups along with pizza and cannolis. And so I actually ordered these bagels and they were pretty good. So I said to my production team, producers, get me the founder. Well, the founder is here. The name of the company is BetterBrand, and you can find them at eatbetter.com, or you can follow them on Twitter, eatbetterbrand. And in her first appearance here on This Week in Startups, Aimee Yang, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and what an amazing, personal anecdote and intro, and exactly why we created Better, right? To solve that pain point that I think is so personal to so many people across the board.
Being fat is bad for you. We can all agree on that, right?
Well,
it's bad for your health.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think, obesity, certainly there are numerous negative health implications associated with that.
You die. And diabetes, pain, suffering.
Exactly, diabetes. But,
can't sleep.
But I think it's more about that mindset of freedom, right? And not having to worry about what you eat and how that's going to affect your weight gain or weight loss. And, kind of creating that world, like you were saying, you were, imagining and dreamed of for so many years of, being able to eat all the foods that you crave and not have to worry about weight gain or negative health consequences.
So let's talk about your first product. You made a bagel. How did you come to the conclusion that you wanted to make a bagel?
Well, so, I guess kind of taking a step back and talking about BetterBrand as a whole, we're really looking to put our stake in the ground as leading innovators in the refined carb space, right? And a way to think about that is the Beyond Meat of carbs. Right.
Okay.
And it's so
pretty good framing. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting also, refined carbs industry is $10 trillion industry, right? And you look at all the innovation that's happening in plant-based at around, 1.4 trillion. So it was just this huge open space that, I was just shocked that no one has come in and doing this. So, in putting our stake in the ground as leading innovators in the refined carb space, what better way to do that than by taking the most carb heavy food and reducing it to the carb equivalent of, let's say, 2 banana slices.
So the carbs in a typical bagel?
About 50 grams of...
Wow.
Yes. And we've gotten it down to 5.
Okay. So how do you do that? What is the secret sauce? Yeah, I'm looking here. 48 grams in a typical bagel. Makes total sense. You get it down to 5. Is it just a matter of putting protein powder in it? Are you using some different type of flour, almond flour?
Oh my gosh.
I've seen all these different concepts, but what is the secret sauce going on here?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And it's so funny. So Fast Company recently released an article and the title is, Can Food Tech Invent a Better Bagel? And that's kind of, what we did, right? And so, in terms of like the how, oh my gosh. So one is proprietary formulation, really novel ingredients that we've sourced, we've worked with, we understood. So for example, if you look at our ingredient deck, the first ingredient is, modified wheat starch. So what that is it's a wheat, but it's not actually digestible in your gastrointestinal tract. So, right. So it doesn't provide that carb content, but what it allows for is that same viscoelasticity of a typical wheat that gets you that same chew and that texture. And so, that's kind of an example of just the novel formulation that we've put together. Very.
So this is a different type
designed.
of wheat, or what is it called? Wheat what?
Modified wheat starch. So it's, it's, non-GMO, right? And it's processed in a way to where the fibrous content of the wheat is retained, but still allows for, the texture and it to provide, the elastic properties of the wheat that you would expect from a bagel just without the carb content. And then that applied to so many ingredients across the board that we worked with and formulated. And then, the second part of that is our proprietary process in terms of development and working with the dough. So if you took this dough and you brought it to anywhere, no one would know what to do with it. If you tried to make it the same way. So everything was kind of custom designed from inception to work with this specific product profile. And then third, I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to say about this, but we really lean into, enzyme technology, and the biological catalysts, right, that are extracted from plants, but they help us, and it's, I always think this is so funny because you use such a small amount of it that it's the last thing on your ingredient deck. Obviously completely natural, but without it, the product would be completely different. So, it helps us with texture, taste, flavor, taste, chew. There's so many parts that go into it, but, that's kind of the how.
Got it. And there's potato starch in it, I see here, chicory root fiber, extra virgin olive oil, yeast, organic brown rice flour, organic white vinegar, sea salt, and enzymes. So seems pretty straightforward.
Very clean.
Yeah, $3.75 a bagel when you buy a 12-pack. So $4 if you buy less, compared to 50 cents a dollar for a typical bagel. When you are trying to grow a startup fast, hiring engineers will slow you down like nothing else. Don't I know it? So many companies I invest in are telling me they can't get their next version out because they don't have a great engineer. Well, Lemon.io will find you a perfect candidate in just 48 hours. It's a marketplace of engineers from Europe, and they test and interview every developer to eliminate the risk of a failed project. Lemon.io is the perfect solution if you are a technical co-founder and you need to delegate some of your important tasks, or you have a project that needs specific technology and you don't have that skill on your team yet, or you are just growing so fast that you need to add more developers and get more done faster. They'll match you with a candidate within 48 hours, and if it doesn't work out, they'll replace the developer right away. So here is your CTA, the old call to action. If you could use a full-time or even part-time developer to run your projects faster, go to lemon.io/twist. Once again, lemon, LEMON.io/twist. And you'll receive a 15% discount for the first 4 weeks of work with that amazing developer. Well done, Lemon. Okay, check it out, everybody. Lemon.io/twist. So how do you get this cost way down?
Yeah.
So it's more accessible because let's face it, like some families not going in and spending $50 on a 12-pack of bagels.
I know. And see, and that's one thing I really kind of hate about the market and it's really kind of programmed us in a way to think that, a bagel should be, X amount, right? But if you think about it, like there's so much cost that goes into producing a premium product that's good for us, right? And that R&D. And there's a reason why these kind of large conglomerate companies aren't making that investment, right? They're trying to push out product and you just don't want to incur that cost up front. And, I think what we are doing is we're saying like, this is important. Like human health is important, like we want the consumer to understand that, novel technology and natural ingredients and putting things that are good for you in your body like that, it's expensive and it's more expensive a lot of times than the market dictates because the market offers a lot of stuff that's terrible for you and going to cause
And the good news is,
bad.
You have the same thing happen with Beyond Meat. They had burgers and the burgers were $16, $18
Exactly.
and you could go to In-N-Out Burger for $4 and get a great burger. And I passed on investing on that. It was a stupid decision because I just thought nobody's going to pay 4 times as much for a burger that doesn't taste as good. And it turns out there were a large number of people who would pay 3, 4, 5 times as much to get something that was healthier and better for the environment.
Yeah.
But they've since, I think, as they got to scale, have lowered it. Are you able to even turn a profit?
We're not
$4 you're not going to be able to be profitable at $4 a bagel?
We're not profitable right now. And so I just, definitely want to make that clear is we're not profitable. But what we want to do is get this product in front of the consumer, take the consumer on the journey with us and, really get real-time feedback. And that's the only way that people can start benefiting from the product. Right. So it really is interesting. Like we get a lot of feedback that, is that question of like, oh, why is this product so expensive? Like you guys must be like, profiting so much from this, like how about making it more accessible? We're not, right? Like the fact of the matter is we're early stage, we're not profitable. But we're so excited about this because we think it's going to be a game changer for so many people and provide that element of freedom that, we've never really gotten before or that's never been possible before.
We had the Magic Spoon team on Gabby episode 1220, and he told me they spent a year doing the R&D for their cereal. I'm curious, how long did it take you to develop the bagel?
Oh gosh. Well, so I started kind of the R&D process on my own in terms of understanding the technology, what was happening in the market, et cetera. Just like doing my due diligence in my second year of business school. So if you count that, well over a year, but if you count from, when we actually closed our first round of funding and started engaging with the labs that we worked with, it was a 4-month push from that to launch.
4 months from launch. And so
which was a crazy time.
Yeah.
It was fast and it was crazy. And, I honestly think that a huge part of why we were able to do that is because of luck. And you hear about the impossible story, Pat Brown, who's, obviously such an inspiring person. Their first hypothesis of how they were going to extract the heme, for example, to replicate that bleed of, a traditional burger, it took them $9 million, right? And a year to realize that their hypothesis was wrong. And then they had to start from scratch. So I think we got so lucky in just being able to get that right the first time. And, I really think it's 1 in a million. And, so grateful for that because it allowed us to get into the market, right? It allowed us to put this in front of the consumer. It allowed us to start putting our stake in the ground as, the Beyond Meat of carbs. And, allowed us to start making impact and feeling that.
And are there competitors from the giant CPG companies yet? Are they even looking at this? The Kellogg's, the Pillsbury's, all these giant brands? They're not even thinking about this yet?
You know what? No. What's interesting is we've gotten a lot of inquiries from their investment arms and their venture arms, trying to play a part in this early on. But, in terms of R&D, it's just the focus on, the focus really just isn't on innovation, right? For these kind of existing large conglomerates. It's mostly on existing product proliferation and additional development on those existing product profiles. So, again, that kind of opened up this huge white space for us to be able to step in and really, after feeling, that very personal pain point of, why can't I just eat what I want without guilt and feeling bad about it, really opens up that white space for us.
What are net carbs? I know that a lot of these packaging, instead of saying carbs, they say net carbs. I think you say net carbs. How does net carbs work? And is that like a little bit of funny business going on there with the actual carb counts?
Definitely not funny business.
Okay.
It's just about how your body processes the carbs. So for example, on our label, we say, we're 32 total carbs. but 27 of that 32 is fiber.
Got it.
And so fiber isn't absorbed by your body. So the actual carb content that's absorbed is, the 5 grams remaining. So even though you're eating this product that, tastes so carb heavy, you're not actually, incurring that blood sugar spike that's, related to, a large refined carb consumption. You're not, getting the carb content from it.
I feel like you're 50% being a bagel snob. My assessment as a kid from Brooklyn of where you're at is about halfway there in terms of the flavor, the texture. Where do you assess you're at in terms of if you were to put a bagel in front of somebody from a, H&H Bagel or whatever bagel you like in New York, a nice buttered bagel, toasted, whatever, lox, cream cheese, and your bagel, where do you feel you are on that journey of like sort of competing against, the most legit Brooklyn bagel, New York bagel?
Oh gosh, you gave us 50%?
I think 50%. Yeah, I think you're halfway there. The mouthfeel is a little chewy, but in a different way than a bagel. Flavor's a little bit off. But when I toasted it, I'll give you this. When I toasted it with butter, I think it got to like maybe 60% of of my joy in eating a bagel, which by the way, that to me was phenomenal. My expectation was, because I've had some funky stuff and, I've had all the mock meats and, if you put the steak that I get, if I'm getting, Kobe beef or a Wagyu or a, great ribeye, I would say like the burgers and the steak are probably 25% as satisfying. So I felt like 50-60% was pretty great for a first iteration. So where do you assess you're at? And then how do you think about closing that gap? Or maybe you don't even feel there's a gap, but for me, there's definitely a gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it hurt your feelings? I'm sorry.
No,
I thought that was
pretty.
I thought that was a compliment for a 1.0.
No. Not at all. What if you also thought about, when you eat a bagel, a traditional bagel, there's that element of guilt that's associated with it, right? You're kind of thinking like, well, like, should I be eating this versus a better bagel? I wonder what your, experience was. Like, were you excited? Were you filled with joy? Were you relieved? Did you feel freedom?
I came into it like an experimenter and a bagel snob, if I'm being totally honest. But that being said, I did, in conversations with my spouse, say, hey, this is pretty great. You can have a bagel and be a little guilt-free. So yeah, I could see getting a 20% bump in the joy factor of like,
there you go.
I'm
you
not
just
there.
Bumped us up to 80.
Yeah, 70, 80. Sure. But just in terms of flavor profile, are you studying what people experience when they bite into an actual real bagel versus this new formula creating? And then how does one judge that? Like, do you bring people in and do a lab where you test it and you give them a blind taste test? Do you have like 5 different versions of your bagel and you have them rate them? How do you refine a formula is sort of what I'm getting at when you're doing something so new.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I would agree with you. I think we're about 70% there, but, I think people are really excited about the product and because of, still like given the health content and, the product profile, there's really nothing like it in the market. And in terms of how we're iterating and how we're getting that feedback is we're getting it directly from the consumers. And that's exactly why we wanted to get a product out there as soon as possible. Right. Because, and one that we knew that people were going to be excited about, but we wanted to know, like, what were the pain points? Like, what do people want improved? And that's how, you run an efficient company, right?
What what is the feedback people are giving you? Are the things that you're narrowing in on and triangulating in on? What are you refining?
Yeah.
What will 2.0 be like?
2.0 will be a little less chewy.
Okay. There's definitely a chew issue. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be, it'll still toast really, really well. And what we focused on initially was that chewiness, because a lot of people said, it does taste a little bit more chewy than a traditional bagel. But, the overarching feedback we've gotten from people is just like excitement and this like emotional response that's almost illogical and it's so special, right? We've had people kind of send us like hundreds and hundreds of messages saying, wow, like I'm a believer, like I'm so excited about this. This really changed my life. I never thought this was possible. We've had people say, I've struggled with eating disorders my entire life and having something like this is such a game changer for me. And then think about how, special and how powerful that is. we've had people say, I've had type 2 diabetes and I haven't been able to eat products like this. And now that you've made this possible, it's so special.
Yeah. So for those folks, yeah, if you can't have any bagel, a bagel that's 50, 60, 70, 80% is like, that's amazing. It's a godsend. I know when I had George Zachary on, the famous OG venture capitalist from Charles River, he had a company, Wilding, that does cell-based salmon. And they spent like a year just on the snap of the bite, and that mouthfeel. Wild Type, I think, is the name of the company, actually. Okay, everybody, let's take a moment to talk about growth marketing and all the tactics and hacks that are out there. With me today, Jake Badsgaard. He is the CEO and founder of Disruptive Advertising, which you can visit at disruptiveadvertising.com/twist. So, some questions for you, Jake. When is too early to start marketing your Cyber Monday or your Black Friday? What's the right time to engage people, and how do you engage them?
Yeah, that's going to depend on the audience, but the cheapest customer is the person that's already bought from you before. And it's time today to start warming up the audience that bought from you last year. With custom audiences on social or email, it's time to get on top of those right now and getting them warm and ready to engage. As far as new audiences are concerned, there's a lot of opportunity to explore new platforms outside of the traditional Google, Facebook channels, like Instagram, TikTok, some of these other ones, LinkedIn, YouTube. Let's get some new audiences in place and test those out and find what's working so that we're ready to scale when game time comes.
All right, that's great advice. So if you want to sign up for a free digital marketing audit with Jake and his company, Disruptive Advertising, just visit disruptiveadvertising.com/twist. And if you go into business with Disruptive, you will receive a $250 gift card and a free Friday to Sunday ski trip in Utah. We'll see you on the slopes. It's going to be a great season.
It's so interesting. I think, with any company that's innovating and pushing new products and innovation into the market, I think you typically see two approaches, right? Like one is, and this is also kind of like the impossible versus the beyond. Like one is, you're in a lab for, a large amount of time until you're like, oh, like, is this product, what about this and what about that? And you're doing your internal testing, but then the consumer doesn't necessarily get to benefit from it, right? And you don't get to learn and you don't know how, as a founder, if you can actually operate a business and excite that same amount of excitement in the consumer that, you really aim to do. And then there's the second where, you get your MVP and you put it in the market as early as you can, and I firmly believe that if you're a founder and you believe in your product, that's what you should do. Because one, you get it in front of consumers and you get to start making that impact, which I would think, is the reason why most founders start companies, right? And the consumer starts to be able to benefit from that. Two, you get those data points that are so real. So you're not just guessing. And then you get to iterate really quickly, get it out and get that real time feedback. And I think it's just a special experience for the consumer too, to see like, wait, yeah, like this is where you're at. And, here was my feedback. And now 2.0 is this. And, and again, it's all about kind of that emotional connection that I think it's just, we get so much of, and it's really
what about
energizing.
The shapes of the bagels? I noticed they were kind of not perfectly shaped like a New York bagel. They were kind of twisted a little bit, a little hard for me to slice. Is there something in the baking process with that you're working on?
They're round now.
Oh, they're round now?
Yes.
Ah. Okay, so I must have gotten the 0.1 version, so now they're round.
Very early.
I ordered it the first day I saw it tweeted about. I was like, I got to try this thing. Yeah, it's very interesting.
You know what made that possible is enzymes.
Ah.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to show like we were trying everything, like getting that shape. And even with all the knowledge we had on the ingredient profile, it was so difficult to get. And then we were doing so much testing in the back end to try to get us there. And then the day we kind of cracked it, it was it's like a very, very joyous day.
Beyond Meat had like I think it was Beyond Meat reported they spent a lot of time on like the juices and the blood that would come out of a hamburger. Like when you squeeze it, the juices and that oiliness come out. And I think for a bagel, that chewiness, mouth flavor, and the shape, that all is going to come in. Did you do flavors yet? Because I just ordered plain. I didn't see any other flavors.
We're not, and that's intentional.
Explain.
So, we have the recipes ready. We can start producing it, but what we really want to do is just highlight the innovation of the product in and of itself, right? And have people really taste it and really kind of appreciate the texture and how different and differentiated it is from everything else in the market. And rather than saying, okay, well, here's X, Y, Z, and here's everything, and I think that the product right now, one, that also allows us to get clearer feedback from the consumer and pinpoint exactly where we need to iterate. But it's, it's such an innovative and novel product. And we want it to speak for itself for a little while. And, we don't need to mask any kind of flavor, right? Like you can put...
I don't know. I think if you had poppy seed and sesame seed, if you had a garlic bagel, like it is true that would mask it. So that would screw up the feedback. So I get that part. I agree on that. But I also think like part of the great feeling of a bagel is, some people are just team sesame and some are team poppy. Me?
Yeah.
I'm team all bagels. I don't discriminate against any bagel. I like all bagels. I'll even eat a cinnamon raisin. I'm not down with the blueberry. That's a little bit strange. But I'm team, give me the bag, the brown paper bag they all came in, and I will shake out every seed and pour it on top of my bagel with butter and cream cheese. So I'm team everything. I love it all.
Yeah.
But I think those flavors are going to really knock it out of the park. Putting rye in there, and because some people are making rye bagels now. They're very nice. Pumpernickel, if you can get some of those flavors going, like the really tangy ones, pumpernickel, rye, sourdough, I think that's actually going to help a lot because it's just going to help with the experience. So as soon as you can get those out, jalapeno cheddar is a good pull from producer Nick. I don't know if you've had the jalapeno cheddar bagels, but that's like a big thing in LA, which by the way, the bagels in LA are whack. I dealt with them for many years. They're like 6 and 7s out of 10 on their best day. It's just, there's actually a really good one. Where are you based?
I'm based in LA.
You're based in LA. So you understand.
So do you think then if that bagel, an LA bagel is like a 6 compared to a bagel, then in a better bagel, 60 is 60%, then you would think
I was
that
putting you at 50, so I think you're right behind an LA bagel. Yeah. And I think if you put the flavors in, people in LA would pick your bagel over the carb bagel because people in LA are like, anti-carb and they're just obsessed with their bodies and health and stuff like that. So I think LA is a smart place to launch this. And the uptick will be much stronger in LA where people are just absolutely reading labels.
Well,
and care.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true to a certain extent and how people, definitely care and about diet here a bit more. But I think, it's not kind of prescribing to that certain way or a certain diet or kind of promoting that diet culture in any way, right? It's more about saying like we're overhauling it in totality. So kind of saying that imagine a world where you don't have to count carbs and you don't have to count calories and just know that, what you're consuming is good for you and not have to extend any kind of mind space to that. Right. So I think that's kind of like exactly what we're trying to do. And whether, you're on the West Coast, East Coast, I think that's, equally powerful of a mission and takes up, the equal amounts of mind space. And yeah, it's just, really exciting to be able to
having
make that impact.
Lived in New York for 30 years, in LA for 10, and here in NorCal for a couple of years, I really think the LA consumer is absolutely the perfect consumer for you because when pressed juices came out, they were more than happy to pay $8 to $12 for juice. And that didn't fly in New York in the same way it would fly in LA. New York's got like a bagel culture. They're going to be snobby about it. They're going to be elitist about it. Whereas in LA, they're going to be much more down with, how low can I get the carbs, especially if you're at $4, because people in middle America are going to have a harder time with the price point, I think. I could be wrong.
What's interesting is our largest consumer base is from New York.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
we ship more Better Bagels to New York than any other state, and I think more than LA and the third state, which is, I guess kind of a tie between Texas and Florida. But New York is like,
what's the go-to market? Are you trying
Better.
to get foodies? Are you trying to get diabetics? When you do your marketing, what marketing are you doing and how are you trying to find your customer for a new product like this?
What's so interesting is we always get the question, like, what's your target demographic? And
initial
for us,
demographic.
Yeah. But I think for us, it was so special, off the bat, because there were so many different groups of people that were gravitating towards the product, right? So you certainly got, people who, are diabetic, people who are on low carb diets. We had, vegan. We had fitness and athletes, a lot of athletes, because they love just the protein content that's in the bagel as well, right? It has 24 grams of protein in a bagel.
That's a big one. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. And then you get people who, are just health conscious, but don't prescribe to a certain diet. You get, it really is it was all over the spectrum, and it was just so many diverse groups of people. And which I think, that speaks to the fact that people are understanding our mission, right? Which is kind of, using this platform and saying, if we can, turn the most carb heavy food, a bagel, into the equivalent of 2 banana slices, then what can't we do? Right? It's kind of like pushing beyond these, predisposed, unnecessary limitations that we've come to accept for whatever reason.
Are you going to be D2C or are you going to try to do retail?
We are D2C right now. We, right now, I think it's just so important for us to protect the brand and get that connection from the consumer and make sure the brand experience is really special, and great. And, I think with grocery, we'll get there eventually, but you have to make sure you can support merchandising, right? Because then there's, a third party in between you and the consumer, and you don't get that real-time data as quickly. So that's why we're focused on D2C. We have started expanding to a couple partners that we think, would still be protective of the brand and, kind of aligns with our vision and our mission. And one of them,
Cafe in LA.
That's a good idea. But we're at Ojai Valley Inn.
Oh, sure. That's perfect.
Which
I was going to say that's a great one. Yeah,
perfect destination, and they
Canyon
care a lot
Ranch
about,
maybe next.
Yeah. Well, they and they care a lot about the quality of consumer experience there, right? So what a better, there's no better. Every time I say better now, I stop. Way to make sure that our product is going to get taken care of really, really well, right? Because that's, such an important part of their business.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. And people are starting to look at their health and looking at, it started with Whole Foods, I guess, Whole Paycheck, was, basically people saying, I'm going to invest in my life through the food I eat. And so that's why I think the tip of the spear people are great. Are you doing subscription stuff yet? And then what's the shelf stability? Because I just ordered it and I didn't actually unpack it when it got to the house. So I don't know if it packed in ice or something, but maybe you could talk a little bit about how shelf stable they are. I got to keep them refrigerated or not? How long do they last?
So we're very, very clean label, no preservatives. So they should be frozen. We ship them ambient. They'll last 4 to 5 days ambient without issue. So they're
frozen. You put them into the box, and then they may over a couple of days in transit, 2 or 3 days.
Yep, and then
defrost
thawing and thawing and freezing doesn't affect the texture. So as when the consumer gets it, should either consume it or freeze it.
Right, and then if you're going to eat it, you could either. Can you microwave it to defrost it, or you just should probably defrost it on the table?
I'm sure you can, but you just leave it out for 10 minutes and it, pop it in the toaster and it's.
Yeah, I was really impressed. And so next up is what? Are you thinking more breads? Are you thinking pizza? Where are you headed next? Or do you think you just got to do another year and get that bagel experience perfected?
So we're using the bagel as kind of our hero product to really establish the brand, get it out there, widen our distribution. And we already have a number of other products kind of in the pipeline in terms of R&D. Buns are ready, which is just great. And that's, another reason why we started with bagels, because, it's the most difficult, finicky product to get right, even from
a lot of bagel snobs. Yep.
Exactly. From the consumer expectation standpoint. And also just from, it's the most carb heavy product, right? The equivalent of multiple slices of bread. And I think consumers know that. So being able to take that and then reduce it to the carb equivalent 2 banana slices, it it's an undertaking. And once we were able to crack that, then other,
hamburger buns,
are
hot
easy.
dog buns would be great because you get the burger.
Yeah.
You get the burger juices flowing into, you got the cheese, you got condiments. If there were things that weren't exactly like, the potato bun or whatever people's preferences are, bleached white hot dog bun, you're going to get the benefit of what's in between it, which I think when I made yours, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I was growing up, my grandmother would toast the bagel, put some butter on it, and then put cream cheese on it. And everybody says you're crazy putting both on. I'm telling you, you put both on. Do not knock butter and cream cheese until your grandmother makes it for you. It is incredible. Have you ever done it?
I've never done it, but I will.
I'm giving you the green light. I'm giving you the green light, Aimee.
Tomorrow. Maybe tonight, actually.
I'm telling you that you just make it nice and toasted, like golden brown or a little bit better. A nice layer of butter. You don't have to go too crazy. And then a nice thin layer of cream cheese. Man, when you get both, because you get the butter absorbed into the bagel, and then you get the cream cheese, which is just a great mouthfeel and everything. And that's where I think
that's great.
I actually made an egg sandwich with yours too. I forgot to tell you that, but I'm big on the bagel egg sandwiches. So then you're getting, how many grams of protein did you say you have? In it
24.
Yeah, so now you put 2 eggs on or a scrambled egg or two, and oh my Lord.
So 24 grams of protein is the equivalent of 4 eggs in terms of protein. So if you're adding another 2, then,
Yeah, now you're just done. You're going to skip lunch.
You just had half a dozen eggs and you're not going to be hungry the rest of the day.
You're never going to eat again. Listen, continued success with it. I think you're off to a tremendous start. I highly recommend everybody try it. The easiest thing you can do is just go to the website right now, eatbetter.com, and just order a couple of dozen, give it away as a gift. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's a really solid bagel. Like I said, 50, 60%. For a bagel snob, I think LA people, you're going to be at 70, 80% easily. And then I'll give you the extra 10%, 20%, depending on if you're diabetic. So I think you're closing in on the red zone. I think you're going to have an incredibly successful company. And just stay in the bread zone. Man, you can really help the world if you just nail bread. Everybody loves bread.
Bread. Can you imagine like a sourdough loaf that you're just slicing through and just eating as much of it as you want and there's no guilt?
Keep talking. You're talking my language now. What else you got? Well, it really is like bread is like what, if you can get a baguette going, a nice chewy baguette.
Jesus, croissants.
Oh, my Lord, now you got me. Pan au chocolat croissant. That's going to be hard because those are, you're talking about layer after layer of very fine dough. I don't know. That seems to me to be super challenging, a croissant.
What's interesting is we're testing it with a sheeter in the mix. Yeah, we'll see.
Wow. I wish you great luck with that. There are French people right now who are turning over. Mon Dieu, they're absolutely appalled that you would ever even consider doing this to a croissant. But I'm with you. It's a lot of butter. It's a lot of butter, and you seem to be vegan. Your team vegan, so there'll be no butter in your croissant, I assume.
There will be no butter in the croissant, but
that could be
there
a
are a lot of
non-starter for me.
equivalents out there.
Are there?
Yeah, a lot of great vegan alternatives.
Yeah. I haven't had them. That's the thing. My wife's got like 5 different vegan spreads at all times. And, just none of them stand up to me. What's the best vegan spread? Is there a good butter one you like? Or
I think Mykonos is pretty great.
We got the Mykonos, yeah.
Yeah. No,
not for me.
Listen,
if I'm out of, my Irish butter, I'll do the Mykonos. But only under pressure and Earth Balance. Producer Rachel says she likes Earth Balance. Yeah, no.
Kite Hill. Has anyone tried Kite Hill? It's also great.
Kite Hill?
I feel bad for leaving that out.
See, Nick and I are team Kerrygold. Yeah, Kerrygold. I go Irish. But, listen, the more options that are out there, the more I'm going to eat healthier. And I really thank you for taking this on. And I knew some entrepreneur would do it. And I'm really thrilled. Congratulations on raising money from my friend Alexis Ohanian from... what's his new thing? 776?
776.
776. What is 776? Is that does it stand for like an area code or something? Does anybody know what 776 stands for? I never asked him. He's been on the pod so many times.
I think it kind of dates back to the Olympics. And it's about kind of, new and breaking barriers. And, they're just such a special, amazing group. And, I feel like every founder there so happy. It's crazy. And
Alexis is a special investor.
I agree. And, I think, and now I'm just making a plug for 776 because I love them so much.
They're great. Yeah.
But, I think some really special thing that they did that I don't know if any other fund does.
Is that 2% personal match thing? Explain what that is. This is really innovative.
How special is that? So, the whole mentality of the fund is, as a founder, you are, making personal sacrifices across the board, right? And you're sometimes negating, care for yourself. And, it's their job, and this is how they see it, to take care of you as a founder. And the way that they do that is they set aside 2%, and that's on top of their investment. That's allocated to the founder for personal growth. And I think it's 1% directly to the founder and another percent that's, doing things for people who you care about. So, whether that's childcare, if you have a child, or, friends, or, and it's so thoughtful and it's so special. And I think that's just kind of indicative of the environment and the fund.
Yeah, it's, you guys raised $2.5 million. So it's 50 grand, 25 for you to go to, yoga or a retreat or mental health or whatever you need. That's pretty dope. And, they get 10, when you have a fund, your management fees would add up to about 10%. So he's basically saying is, hey, of the 10% on our $300 million fund, we would have 30 million in fees. We'll take 2% of that, whatever that would wind up being, 30 million. Which is 20% of 30 million. So you probably just earmarked 6 million to give to the founders.
Isn't that
to
so
just
special?
be healthy. It's really a neat idea. I mean, other people do interesting things. They send swag or they have retreats. People do take a portion of their management fees and they'll host a retreat, let's say, and take everybody to Hawaii or something. They're founders, but yeah, I mean, Alexis. The more I've watched his career, the more I've appreciated. Like, he's a special individual. 776 BCE, the first year of the Olympics. The Olympics were held. And I think his daughter is named Olympian. Is that right?
Yes. And she loves Better Bagels.
Very cool. Very cool. That's all. Olympia is the name of his daughter. Yeah. Because she was actually on this pod. She jumped in the middle of a podcast with me. It was super cute. All right, listen, I got to let you go, get back to the laboratory, get to work on the sourdough, get to work on the croissant. Like, we're all really excited you're doing this, Aimee, and everybody go to eatbetter.com right now and try it out.
Thanks,
it's
Jason.
Great. Okay, we're doing This Week in Startups meetups, and producer Rachel is running them. If you want to see all the information on our meetups, go to thisweekinstartups.com/meetups. And with me again today, Rachel reporting. How are you, Rachel?
Hi, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Every Monday, we try to talk about our meetups. The meetups are by founders, for founders. We're going to let some angel investors in as well. But we've had some great success. We started this program, I think, in September. It's now October, or maybe it's November. It just passed. Yeah, it's November 1st.
Yeah.
So I think we've been doing this for under 2 months. Which cities have completed Mission 1? And explain what Mission 1 was for meetups.
So the first meetup, there were 5 to 10 founders. And basically the whole thing about that was get comfortable. So 5 or 10 founders meet up. Everyone pays their own way. You have a meal, grab a drink, grab a coffee, really casual, no reservation needed. And the cities that have completed that are LA, New York City, London, Tokyo, Austin, Boston, and Chicago. And LA, New York City, and keep going.
That's 7 cities have already done their first mission.
Yes, 7 cities, and 3 are on Meetup 2, London, New York City, and LA.
Great. So do we have any photos of those meetups? I asked everybody to take pictures so we can put
do.
them on the website.
And they are on the website. They look great.
So here we go. This is beautiful. Here's the website, everybody. So Meetup 1 was complete by Los Angeles, New York, London, and you have the photos up there. Fantastic. And so we tried to make it like we gamified this. And we said, you're going to do 3 missions. The first one is to just have a breakfast or a lunch with just a handful of founders. Can't buy a ticket to it. Everybody pays their own way, because one of the things we're trying to do is make this for founders, by founders, and keep it from becoming a sales event. Do you ever go to those events? They're like, oh, there's a startup event going. And like every 4 to 5 people you meet are trying to sell you something. And then one person's an actual founder. We wanted to do the opposite. 100% founders, at least for these first couple. So that's amazing. Great job, Rachel. And we're getting to know all these people, and they're on the Slack coordinating, and they get to know each other. So that's a lot of fun. And are friendships being made, and people are starting to get to know each other?
I think so. And I think even if you're just attending the meetup, I would recommend joining the Slack, not just organizers, because I've noticed that sometimes people show up to the events and they can't find the founders that they're supposed to be meeting with. So I'd recommend everybody sign up for the Slack.
Sure.
It says that on our website, but I've noticed that is a step that some people have been skipping, and I'd hate for people to go all the way out there. I've had 2 people now reach out to me that have driven quite a ways to meet up, and they didn't know who
so
their
we got to
organizing
be
founders
more
were.
specific about where and when. So when they say they're doing it at a bar, everybody should wear like an orange shirt or do name tags and just put twist. So they can make their own name tags and just put twist and the first name on it, and that'd be fine. So now, if you complete mission 1, we give you your own URL as well. So if I go to thisweekinstartups.com/
London is a good one to look at right now.
You have a London page up. And then the people who are actual founders, who are the founder coordinators, the founder organizers, I think we're calling them, they get to be on that page and link to their company and link to their social media. Is that what we're doing for them?
Yes. So I'm going to give them a little bit more range. I can show you as an example of what London looks like right now. This one has none of them have been given yet to the founders, but once they get access to these, I'm going to let them do what they want with them. Yeah. Right. And then I just added this little infographic that explains one of the tweets, and this is information on their next meetup. But
what is that infographic? You made an infographic?
It's just a little one that in case they want to send it. That was actually recommended from a founder in London. So John, shout out to you for having this idea. But he said it would be nice to have something just as an attachment to send to people. Right. And I included that on everybody's page.
So if they complete mission 1, they get their own Notion page at This Week in Startups / their city, and they get to edit it, put their own information on. So we'll trust them to edit their own page and be stewards of the brand. And so that's really the issue here we're trying to mitigate in real time, Rachel, is they're representing us to a certain extent. I mean, they obviously represent themselves. But as we've seen already, we've had a lot of people want to do this who have an ulterior motive, which is marketing, which is to get free advertising on This Week in Startups. This is not an end run to get advertising to reach the audience. This is for founders, by founders. If you're a lawyer, accountant, SaaS developer, salesperson, selling insurance, human resources, headhunter, all that great stuff, we appreciate you in the industry. But you don't get to organize the This Week in Startups event. You can buy ads on This Week in Startup, and maybe we'll have a sponsorship on Mission 4. Mission 2 is 25 to 50 person event and RSVP, but all founders still. So we're checking that you're a founder. How do we know if somebody's a founder or not when they RSVP for an event?
I will ask you for your LinkedIn, and I will ask you for your startup's website. And if you don't have either one of those and you still are saying that you're a founder, I'll have to follow up via email to see if you have anything you can show me. And right now, we are kind of focusing, if you're becoming an organizer, on people that are post-launch for their startup. So I'm sorry if your startup isn't launched yet. This would be most beneficial for founders meeting if you guys have already launched your startup.
Now, when we get to Mission 3, we're going to open it up a little wider. Founders will come free. We're going to also let angel investors go, and we're going to give bracelets. Green bracelet if you're an investor, confirmed investor from our network, and then the orange bracelet if you're a founder. And we're going to get those rubber bracelets made and send them, like the Live Strong bracelets for people, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Any drama or issues at the events yet?
No,
Anybody
not at all.
Nothing? Okay, good.
So for Chicago's, though, I felt bad. I saw some people from Chicago. Maria was on the live. So hi, Maria. But I saw that they had to actually leave their intended meetup place because only 2 people could sit at a table. They made an update to the location. So that's another reason to join the Slack, because if an update like that happens, and they leave, you guys better find them. They relocated, though, to a Starbucks close by, and it looked like it went well.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I mean, obviously COVID, depending on the city you're in, will have different things. So go to This Week in Startups / Slack. If we can get, my goal is I wanted to have 10 of these up and running this year. You've already done that, and it's only November 1st. So you're way ahead of schedule. Congratulations on that. And by next year, so September of next year, we'd like to have 100 chapters of This Week in Startups meetups. So we're at 10. We just need to 10x it. Actually, we have more than 10, right? We have like maybe another 10 that we're trying to collect founders for. So what are the cities that need founder organizers?
The cities that need founder organizers, Berlin is so close. Let me bring up a list because there's actually quite a few that only have 3 founders. And something that I would like to know for those is if you guys give me a company that isn't your own company, I still look you up on LinkedIn. So I saw a lot of people from St. Louis were giving me companies that they weren't founders of. So that's a little drama, I guess, happening on the RSVP side for the organizers.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll get the salespeople know this, like the people who are trying to sell into founders, they know how to play this game. So they say they're a founder or they'll put their founder's name in, they show up and so people will try to do this. And, for the people who are the founder organizers, you can just tell people like, hey, listen, it's just for founders by founders. Eventually, like by mission 3, what we're going to do is we're going to let founders come for free, investors come for free. Anybody else can buy a ticket is my plan. Okay. And we're running the sign-up form, so we'll have a ticket price. People will buy a ticket, and we'll give that money to the local organizers to spend on the space or food or whatever they want. And so I could see this. I don't want it to be a business for people. I want them to do it as a labor of love because they want to meet other founders and support other founders. But if it did generate a little bit of income or revenue to underwrite it, that's not the end of the world. So we have a sales team here. If we do get to 100 cities, what we'll probably do is we'll ask Twilio or Amazon Web Services or whoever's got a, international footprint, LinkedIn or whatever, if they want to sponsor the 100 cities. And if they do, maybe we can send a little bit of money for food to each one or something. I don't know. I really don't care about the sponsorship stuff. Awesome. I'm just putting it out there for down the road that sure, if a sponsor did show up and they wanted to buy everybody donuts or hamburgers or pizza, I don't mind that. But I just want to keep it from getting overtly commercial. So like TEDx seems to have done a good job with this by the organizers are the key, Rachel. So if we have the right organizers in it for the right reason, then everything should flow perfectly. And then we're collecting all the emails. So we're not having people spam because that's the other thing that happens at these events. You have a bunch of founder organizers, and then some salesperson gets the list and they start sharing with all their friends and everybody starts getting spammed. And then people who are founders put Jason plus twist at calacanis.com and they have that little thing where you put the plus in your Gmail account so you sign up for each service specifically. And they're like, look, I caught this person spamming. You're selling the list. You're breaking can spam. And it's like, oh. So that's the shit I want to avoid whenever possible. But really excited. Yeah.
Yeah. With the amount of people that are signing up that are actually founders and not salespeople, I think that'll be hopefully we'll be able to keep that under wraps. We haven't gotten that many salespeople coming in. We have gotten, though, you mentioned lawyers. We've gotten a lot of lawyers. But Berlin, Portland, and Seattle are the next 3, along with St. Louis. So those 4 places, if there's just one more person that signs up for those cities, they can start planning.
So we should put up the sign-up form. This event is only for founders. If you are a service provider, and then put in parentheses, lawyer, accountant, headhunter, we will be having a larger event that you can be invited to sign up here for our announcement list. So every city should have an announcement list and then also a sign up form for specific events. So I know there's a lot of work. So we have to figure out how to just build these lists and manage them. So start thinking about if we had 100 lists, what service would we use to manage it? Do we have a group sign up list or where people pick what cities they're interested in on Typeform or something?
Yes, it is there. It's an interest form. And so far, there are quite a few cities down. But most of the people that wrote in the interest form, there are no cities in the interest form that don't also have organizers, if that makes sense. So there's not any stray cities yet.
I would actually put the stray cities in. So I'd put all cities, like if there's going to be 100 cities, I would put which cities and, which regions are you interested in? Asia, North America, South America, Europe, and then put the cities under them. This way people can start, signing up for the cities we don't have. And then we'll email them.
Sounds
Great
good.
job, Rachel. This is really exciting. I think it's, I want to do it for the fans of the show and for founders. So it's great. And then who's going to have the first mission 2?
Who's going to have the first mission 2? That is a great question. Let me go back to the website. If you guys want, by the way, thisweekinstartups.com/meetups, if everybody is looking along. I believe the next website is going to be London, but I'm going to have to check over.
Yeah, Meetup 2, November 11th.
Yeah.
New York City, Meetup 2, November 9th. LA, Meetup 2, November 4th. So, okay. And those are occurring at restaurants, bars, cafes, or like co-working spaces. Do you know?
Some of the founders have offices. So for example, London, that startup has its own office. New York City has been doing a great job on finding reservations for places. So it really depends on the city and the availability. Most places, I think, doing restaurants do have to make reservations beforehand. So that's something to note to some people. For example, like San Francisco, that sign up sheet is limited. So if you don't sign up within the first 15 people, you can't go because it's a reservation. They won't have a seat for you. So these are a little time sensitive for people wondering.
Yeah. Well, and then eventually, just as a general rule of thumb, pick a dive bar or a pizza joint, someplace that's large. A beer hall comes to mind, a barbecue joint. You don't got to go fancy here. No private rooms. Let's keep this real. Keep it affordable. Place that's got pitchers where you can. I always did Mexican pizza, burger joints. Those places, you could have a large group of people. You could order 3 pies for $20 each. You could order a couple of pitchers of beer or, sangria. That's the vibe we're going for. We're not trying to be fancy here. This isn't like Chamath and Saks ordering, $5,000 bottles of wine. Like I want a $500 bill split between 20 people. Everybody puts in $25. You're good.
Yeah.
That's
good thing you said that. London's at beer. New York City is at Beer Authority, which is kind of cool. And I know Austin actually did theirs also at like a beer hall.
Did Nick and
I don't think
go
Justin
to
and
the New
Nick.
York one?
I don't think so. No,
that's not cool. Well, you got to go to Meetup too, boys.
The first one, isn't there only supposed to be like 8 people?
All right, listen. I don't want to hear any excuses. You guys.
Also, I'm not a founder. So.
I know you're a producer of the show. Go and take some pictures and meet the audience. It's a great idea. You guys got to go to the next one for sure. And then I am going to zoom in to some meetups. So what you should do is give me the founder's phone number, Rachel, when it's occurring, and SMS me, and I will maybe FaceTime with them just randomly. We don't have to record it or anything. And then for mission 3, we will have an AV set up and do it officially. But I could just, FaceTime in and just say hi to everybody. But I'm really excited about this.
Awesome. I love that.
Great job.